Morning guys, so we are back at the cupboard doors where we were going to put the glass in. So I've already set up, I've got my door out, and the first thing I've got to do is if you remember the other day, I've got to square out, let me show you what I mean. I've got to square out these corners. So these corners we need to square out. Now I did make a start, I was testing my chisel. The first thing I really need to do is I need to sharpen my chisels, because when we were doing those oak doors, they've actually got quite blunt from chipping into that oak. So I've already done one, because I use these very expensive chisels, and if that's the right way up, is it? It is. See, these are the chisels I like to use. Now I've got these, and I've got the Irwin chisels. So these come really sharp, but obviously when they're stored in a van they get a bit rusty, and I'll show you what I mean, because obviously I've already honed that one. So what these actually need is very little, but you can see where they've been stored in the van, they're getting a little bit rusty. It's still very, very sharp, but if you look, there's no second bevel. It's just one thing. I like to put a second bevel on mine, which I can then keep sharp. So what I like to use is, I use a Faithful Quality Tools. This is the bag that my stone comes in. It's not actually a stone, it's actually a diamond plate. So this is what I use. So it's got a massive rubber foot, and you've got 1000, and if you unwind it like that, you can flip it over, and on the back you've got a 400. So you'll start with your 400. And these are dry stones, don't forget. You don't oil these are just dry. So we start with the 400, and then we need to set up how we're going to sharpen our chisel. Now, I did buy the Trend jig, which is a little plate that tells you your angle, and you get this little wheel which your chisel would basically clamp in. But the problem with these chisels is that they're so wide here, they don't actually fit in that slot. So I've had to go back to my original one, which I got which is a Stanley one. So this was a Stanley one, it's just cheap and cheerful. So basically what happens is, you wind these out, and you put your chisel in like so, and then you'll wind these up to make it tight. So first thing I need to do is just clean that edge up. So I'm going to try and use this as a jig. So you've got this little notch here, which is where the wheel is designed to sit, and then obviously you can then adjust the angle accordingly. So we're going to go for 25 first and just see how flat our chisel gets. So let's just have a go at setting it up. So I can loosen it off, put my wheel in a bit more. It does get quite wide, this one. Slide that all the way through, keep loosening it off. Watch you don't slice your fingers while you do it. A little bit more. Okay. So that's a bit too steep, so we're going to go for 30. So I don't actually know what this was actually set to, but 30 is the mark. So we're going to hold that in place, wind our clamp up, just make sure that doesn't move, make sure that is still looking pretty flat. It is. Make sure we square it up. So you want to make sure you're nice and square here, you want it even. You can always adjust it as you go. So we've got it set for 400 straight off the bat. So let me just adjust the camera a bit more. So I've got it sitting on here. Let's see how it looks there. So first job. Now I've not sharpened these yet, so this will show me how well I've got it, if at all. I might need to make some minor adjustments until we get an even wear pattern going. do with being a slightly more of an angle on it, so I'm going to go back to 25 and see if that helps. Bear with me, guys. As I say, I've not sharpened these ones before and I don't know what angle they come out of the shop at. Let's see how that sits, and it's actually better. No, that's too much. Anyway, once you got it how you want, just keep going until you get a nice even surface on it. And keep checking it because I am getting a bit of an uneven wear. One thing we want is nice and even on our angle. It's getting better. She's not too bad now. Just got to keep going now until I get a nice even flat surface on it. And this is how I sharpen them on site, remember? This is not how I would normally sharpen them. I do actually have a proper sharpener at home, a wet one. But to be fair, it's a matter of getting it out of the van, out of the shed even. It's coming along nicely. It's always a good idea to spin this as well, so that you're using the whole sharpening stone. Nearly there. For our first bevel, let me change it for a second. Shit, that's not my van. No, it's not my van. Hate when alarms go off. Alright. I'm doing this in real time. I will speed the video up. Alright, so I don't know if you're going to be able to see that, but I've got pretty flat there, but I'm going to put a secondary bevel on this now. So we got it at 25, so we're going to adjust that to 30 now. And that should be my cutting angle. So make sure that's sat in there, make sure that's sat there. Right, so I've set that to my angle. Give it a little go. Okay, we're getting a bit of an uneven. Might be too bad actually. Just give it a little more. Perfect. Okay, so now you can see that we've got our second bevel now, nice and flat. So now we're going to spin over to our 1000 grit, which will hone that blade to a razor edge. I don't normally go to this extreme. I've only done that one so much because it had that rust on it, which I didn't like. I could have probably just polished that out and without going to this extreme, but at least this is showing you how to sharpen on site and get a good edge. Okay. I wish I had a leather strap because that really does put that final edge on for you. Okay, that should now be absolutely razor. So the next job we've got to do is just clean off the burr. So you're placing it flat and you're just going to A bit more on that one. And there we go. Absolutely. Look at that. Now, the real test. Now, I don't actually have any paper here. What can we use it on? Well, let's have a look on the MDF here. Let's get you close up and we'll start squaring our corner up. So this isn't the chisel I want to use, because I want to use one with a wider base, but you can already see pretty much effortless cutting into this MDF. I'm actually going to change it for the wider one that I've already sharpened, but you can see from that how easy that is cutting in. See, I want the wider one because it's giving me a flatter surface, because it's keeping my angle where I want it. And there you go, guys. I can't get it much better than that. And that, as you can see there, is just to show you, it's got a bit of rust there, which I'm going to hand polish out because it's just to get rid of it. But that is my bevel, and that is a razor. And that's how I keep my chisels nice and sharp on site. And now and again, once a year, I will take my chisels into the workshop and I will hone all of these on my electric wet bed one. But for everyday use, to keep them nice and safe, they're the tools I recommend, guys. Like I say, these trend ones work really well on the Irwin chisels because they're not as wide, you know, they're not as thick, so these work better. But the Stanley one, it's very old, I've had that since day one. You see it's an old Stanley there, still does the job, and using that as a guide to get your angles so that they're all universal is very useful. And again, the old faithful sharpener, very good bit of kit. But there you go, so that's those two chisels sharpened. The other two don't actually need doing because I don't use the other two very often. I'm just going to have a clean up now, finish cutting out the rest of these corners, and then we can look at doing the glazing. See you in a bit.